right, let's discuss press freedom, human rights, abuses, and cyberbullying further with Dr. Owah David, Executive Director, Center for Ethical Conduct and Orientation and Empowerment. Thank you for joining us here on Newsnight. We just saw our report about the International Press Institute's conference, where one of the speakers says, in Nigeria, there's no freedom of press, but there's freedom of speech. And then you have the Minister of Information praising Nigeria's sort of openness and freedom under this administration, emphasizing their commitments to press freedom. How do you reconcile this sort of apparent paradox?
Thank you very much. I want to say that the speaker has opined based on his own perspective of the context of the questions or the debates of the press freedom. So, and if you ask me, Nigeria has enjoyed about quite a level balance in press freedom. If you ask me, because in my opinion, we have enjoyed an uninterrupted press reportage. So, of course, definitely there are limitations to everything. So, and if you also notice, one of the speakers, he also addresses the use of the misuse of such freedom. So, because in the process of trying to get an uninterrupted press freedom, you realize that we still also must consider the fact that some people start to misuse this freedom, and this becomes a counter-reactive to what we are agitating for as regarding the press freedom. So this makes it a case to sue for balancing. While we seek for press freedom, we must also strike a balance to also mitigate the misuse of this freedom.
Well, when you look at available statistics and data, whichever report you pick, it does show that Nigeria is either on the decline or has not improved when it comes to human rights, press freedom, rule of law. So how do you justify those reports to say that press freedom is on the decline? In fact, some reports say globally, including Nigeria. So, I mean, are you saying that there has been a good press freedom expression in the country, contrary to these reports that we are seeing, including the World Press Index that says Nigeria is declining?
Regarding your question, I would say both activism and press freedom share something in common, which is holding the government and institution accountable. So, and when you try to go in that way, you see there's still a thin line in the middle, still arguing about what I'm calling your attention to, because what activism means trying to cater and defend and uphold what is right or what you feel should be right, to hold accountable an institution, to hold accountable individuals or government. Press freedom also means that you are trying to make them transparent in their dealings, making accountable their efforts and performances or whatever they are doing. So these similarities bring them together as both press and activists. But still, they both must understand that there is a thin line to these two. As an activist and as a press person, there must be facts. There must be balancing and there must be fairness in whatever agitation we are making. So, however, both activists and both the press freedom or whatever is reporting, there must be a fairness, there must be balancing, and there must be equity to whatever agitation we choose to fact. And if we must cite a case, we must also notice the case of the woman rights activist, Dele Farotimi, versus Chief Afe Babalola, SAN. You can see the peculiarity of such case. An activist versus a lawyer, a two lawyer in context here, and over a case of defamation. And so, to this extent, they have to slung it out in the court that he says he has a fact to back his claims or the reason for the defamation. And the Chief Afe Babalola has come out to say, no, I'm ready for you to prove this defamation, which has led to the general, and so much. So what we are trying to say is this. You see, the current context of Nigerian press have not been divided between the new media and the traditional media. So why the new media are untamed? Because they lack gatekeeping, there's no editors. So there is editors and editing, proper gatekeeping in the whole main media. So this restricts and mitigates what is allowed access. And this issue of press freedom must be carefully looked at, because the citizens look towards the press based on trust. And whatever information must be given, that will be given to them, must be based on trust, fact, truth, and...
I think that's where we're coming from. when we talk about press, we're talking about organizations that base their information on fact, that investigate, and the people have trust in them. So we're talking about that, in that context, the press. How can, you're the Executive Director, Center for Ethical Conduct. What role does ethical journalism then play? Because you're talking about striking a balance between people who just put out things online in the digital space without any sort of facts. But we're talking about, when we're talking about press freedom, we're talking about actual press people who put out things that have been investigated, that are factual, that are truthful.
Okay. Where we are coming out now, investigation. And this investigation becomes the basis for the misuse of press freedom. Because everybody hides under investigation to release or give out whatever reports they give without facts, without statistics.
I think you're misunderstanding me.
Okay.
I'm talking about the press now that give out factual information with statistics, with data. How do we prevent those people from being gagged?
From being gagged? The simple way is this. When you report fact, you earn the trust of Nigerians. When you report truth, Nigerians understand this, but we are in a very tense situation as a country currently now, that the press must be careful of the influx of reportage that is being given to society, because whatever report that goes out determines the emotions and the lead of the people's actions in the society. So these have to be well mitigated.
Okay, so I get you. You're talking about ethical standards that ensure neutrality and impartiality of the press. But I wanted to come back to, ethical journalism, which requires a commitment to truth. But in a world, you've spoken about the new media and how it is so free and unguided, if you want to put it that way. There's nobody gatekeeping your word as you used it. But so how does the traditional media, uphold this ethical journalism that they hold so dearly in a world of rapidly changing news ecosystem where you're competing with this new media, you're competing with social media? I mean, there's so many social media apps that, people even watch these days and don't really watch traditional media news. How do you then sustain, one, ethical journalism in that phase and ensure that, your integrity is still intact? What are the measures that we can take to protect the traditional media, to hold that role and hold that space in the face of all of this competition, misinformation, the social media, the new media, and, gatekeeping?
I want to tell you something here now. Nigerians hold more responsible and more value information from this old media more than this new erupted new media and social media influencers. Ask me why. The reason is that they believe that news from the whole traditional medias, they carry facts and have been what I call that verified, and they don't just release news without having facts of it. So, but the new media is more paraded with hearsay, unsubstantiated news and facts. We have so much of them. For instance, let me make an example. There's the Foundation of Investigation Journalism being propagated by Fisayo Soyombo. This particular organization used the avenue of new media to influx news that have no value, no substance, no evidences. For instance, he released of recent news against Nigerian Customs, against Army. These are unsubstantiated news. In the case of Customs.
But those are serious allegations they're making, because the FIJ by Shoyombo does thorough investigation. So
where are the facts?
Okay, but did you also go after those stories to verify that those stories are untrue by the FIJ?
Yes, as an organization, we do.
You have verified those stories by FIJ?
Okay, let me cite an example. For instance, of recent on his Twitter X account, he said that there are about 1,500 cars being transported carrying smuggled rice into Nigeria. And there was a camera person in that same video which he released, that also walked through all this route unhindered. So how manage 1,500 cars carrying bags of rice smuggled into Nigeria uninterrupted, and his own camera person also walking through without uninterrupted? Look, these are just psychological things that appeals to common sense. Just that this is a whole substantiated, they had no evidences. And this man, just because of hearsay, caused name. Let me cite another example that is very critical for us to understand here. In the case of, of recent, when he had issues with Nigerian Army and he was arrested. For instance, when he got arrested and he was released, this man was asked, why did you went on investigation without any prior notice to the Nigerian Army? He said, because he doesn't have trust in any Nigerian institutions. Okay, fine, that is allowed. Now, he now says something very, very fundamental. He said when he got released, he had the information he gave to Nigerian Army from these bunkers. What is the synergy he has with bunkers?
Let me explain to you how investigative journalism works and how journalists work. We do have sources that we cannot name for integrity and for continuation of stories. So if Mr. Shoyombo decided to go back to his sources, you cannot question the relationship he has. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but these are allegations you're making, and I'm sure that there'll be other platforms to interrogate further the allegations you've made and response by the FIJ. But we must thank you for being on the news tonight.
Thank you very much.